Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, Derek got a fun and exciting episode for you guys today, and one that's probably pretty unexpected, because we're going to be talking about the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess Dusklight PC port, except we're not playing it on the PC whatsoever. This is a port of Dusklight over to the PlayStation Vita by a developer going by the name of Capitan Barbacoa, and obviously it's not going to run anywhere near as good as even the most potato-y of potato PCs when it comes to Dusklight, but I absolutely love that this can even be done in the first place. And this is the full port. All the areas, dungeons, and overall story are going to be here, and even if it's not going to run at 60 frames per second, I absolutely love ports like this just because they show exactly what can be done on some old hardware. I am video game esoteric after all, and for a bonus episode talking about Dusklight being ported over to the Vita, absolutely 10 out of 10 fun. And when Courage Reborn comes out, apparently there's going to be some improvements there as well to make a Vita port even more playable according to what I read over on Reddit. But honestly, the fact that this is even possible in the first place is 10 out of 10 fun and wild, and I love stuff like this just to see what is possible. Before we get too much further involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. Now in the footage here, you're going to see the frame counter is on, and you're going to be playing this game between 15 to 30 frames per second, depending on what's going on at screen at any given time, and depending on how big of an area you're in, because it's drawing all of the polygons, all of the geometry that would be in Twilight Princess. It's just drawing them on the PlayStation Vita's hardware, which of course is not going to be living up to something like an actual PC. But again, everything is recognizable here, all the graphical effects are working, so all the calls to the Vita hardware, the GPU specifically, have been strung together for this to look correct. If I took a screenshot and just said that this was a PlayStation Vita port that ran at a perfect frame rate, you would believe it, but of course that wouldn't be true just because everything does look accurate to what the game would represent, and that in and of itself is absolutely a massive win. Now kind of playing around here, we're going to jump on Epona, or as I usually name her in my games, Epony, just because it makes me laugh. Everything here does work. The controls, the camera, everything in Dusklight is going to be able to function over on the Vita. And I totally get it, the Vita is a platform that Sony has not sold for a long time, and one honestly that I feel like they kind of half ignored when it was actually on retail store shelves. But I absolutely love the Vita, and seeing something like this just is always a fun time. And big thanks to Anime Phoenix, a member of my Discord, for helping capture the footage. He has a Vita capture chain set up, so it's easier for him, where my Vita is still basically just stock with some modifications, but not really an easy way to capture. But as we come into the main village here, of course the frame rate is going to drop because it's drawing a ton of geometry at once. And that really is what's going to be the hard thing about running this on the Vita in the future. It's gotta basically get to a speed, maybe 30 frames per second would be nice, obviously, as that's what it natively ran at on the GameCube. So this would be maybe more of a quote-unquote playable experience. But stuff like this always lays the foundation for things to come in the future, and you know full well the Vita modding community and dev community out there do some absolutely wild things with the hardware, so I really feel like you might see a future in which you can play Dusklight on the Vita from start to finish in 30 frames per second. And you'll see here when you're in this cave, you're getting close to 27 to 30 frames per second until you come back out in the open area. But this isn't just a tech demo, this is a full build. You have combat, you have everything else that you would need to make this something that you can actually sit down and play. And I would love to hear someone actually try to beat this game to see the credits scroll with the current situation. I know it is possible, and I would love to see someone basically confirm that it can be done and just kind of articulate the experience, maybe in a video of their own. Because as much as I wish I had the time to, definitely not enough time to play through Dusklight again on the Vita to see the credits scroll for me personally. But I am impressed just how good everything looks, and it definitely has a very PlayStation Vita aesthetic, which you'll either love or hate, depending on how much nostalgia you have for the hardware. For me personally, I bought a PlayStation Vita day one just because that is what I do. I have a very large collection of games, and I really do love the Vita aesthetic. But let's go into the first of two soundtrack samples so you can hear the audio quality coming over is exceptionally good, and I'll come back and show you more about Dusklight on the PlayStation Vita because it is just 10 out of 10 fun. I mean, that definitely just sounds like Twilight Princess to me, and that again is a testament to just how good of a port this is, even if it is still obviously just kind of a work in progress proof of concept that this can come over to Vita in the first place. Because we see a lot of ports over to Vita of some of the N64 recomps, and that makes sense because it has the power to be able to handle them. But something like Dusklight running on Vita, that is basically pushing the Vita hardware to its limit. Now, I'm sure with some more coding work and a little bit more refinement, this frame rate could be brought up, and again, once Courage Reborn comes out, the developers indicated that should actually help if they want to do the work to get this running closer to its native frame rate. But even in its current state, I just can't believe that anything like this is possible. And the thing that impresses me the most is it's not like it's running at 15 to 25 frames a second with a bunch of graphical corruption, a bunch of missing textures or other issues or even crashes. It is just running, it's displaying everything it needs to, it just isn't running at 30 frames per second. If you got this port up to 30 frames, then I would say there really isn't anything else you would possibly need out of Twilight Princess on the PlayStation Vita. And again, I just love that people spend their time to do these crazy things just to see what's possible. Just recently we got a dual screen port to the 3DS of both The Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past as well as the Minish Cap, and you see crazy stuff like this happening all the time. And I totally get it, there isn't any quote-unquote reason to have Twilight Princess on the Vita. There's plenty of handhelds out there, Steam Deck and everything else that can run this port with no issues whatsoever. But sometimes just because somebody wants to do something is the perfect reason for it to be done. I always see comments with people saying it's a waste of time, why bother? It's not your time, it's their time, and therefore if they find value in making it, then it's not possibly a wasted amount of time. I always work on projects in my spare time that are probably only entertaining to me, but that's because I find the value in the time expenditure. And for something like Dusklight on the Vita, I am super glad the developer on this one made it. Now, if you want to try to play this one, I will leave a link to the Reddit post down below in which it was linked because it is basically on an itch.io page with a password you'll find on that page. It's kind of an interesting sort of distribution network, but honestly, it is what it is, and you'll just be able to find it if you click that link in the description. But you'll see here, as we break open this wooden cage, all of the game's physics work, all of the animations work, everything is basically looking, feeling, and sounding like Twilight Princess, just at a little bit of a lower resolution because we're on the Vita, and of course at a lower frame rate. But I will say there's something a little bit entertaining by having this pixelated look of Twilight Princess. Kind of really feels like back in the day when you would get ports of games with different hardware, some that was inferior, and end up playing a version that didn't look as good as the source material, but you still loved it because that's the way you could play. Because right now, obviously on PC, they're great kind of equalizer. So long as you have a decent CPU and GPU, games are basically going to look almost identical minus a few effects. But back in the day, you had ports where it was basically a completely different game at some points in time. Let's do one more soundtrack sample just so you can catch the vibes again and hear how good it sounds, and I'll be right back with a bit more.
Express a scheme to you which see what end you need it.
So from the soundtrack to the musical cues to the sound effects, everything is exactly where it needs to be and lined up. And as we're in this interior space here not moving, you will see that frame rate is hitting 30 frames per second. So it is doable, and again, this is just a first draft of work like this. I'm sure with time, if the developer Captain Barbacoa wants to spend the time to actually improve it, you will get a 30 frame per second Twilight Princess experience on the PlayStation Vita. And again, all of this stuff is just good learned experience, because if you can make something like Twilight Princess run on Vita, imagine what else you could bring down to that handheld as kind of a new downgraded port and have a fun time with. And if you don't own Vita hardware, unfortunately now it's definitely gotten a lot more expensive, but it is one of my favorite kind of deep cut platforms out there. I have two different Vita handhelds as well as the PlayStation TV modded so I can play whatever game I want on it, and there are a decent amount of exclusives. And obviously Dusklight isn't exclusive to the Vita because we have a lot quote unquote better ways to play this game, but I don't think we have any more kind of fun proof of concept concept, entertaining ways to play it. Seeing this run on the Vita is just an absolute surprise, and I love projects like this. That just because I can, let me see what I can figure out projects. They just make me happy because that's a lot of what gaming is. You kind of poke at things, you see what's possible, and then from there, some of that possibility derives itself into future projects that make a bigger difference. But you can leave me a comment down below and you tell me, Dusklight on PlayStation Vita, entertained by it or not? I would be curious. And again, I'm running this as a bonus episode because I totally get it's not how I would recommend to play, but you can play it that way. But I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.